It would help if I unmuted my microphone. Hello there, and welcome to a live edition of the Styles Cast. I am Wes Styles, going to be joined by three friends of mine for the great wrestling debates. I would say distinguished, but I'm not sure distinguished fully describes them or properly describes them if they are distinguished at all. They're all three wrestling fans like yours truly, one of which has actually joined me on the Styles Cast to talk about many things WWE before. We'll bring him in first, and that being Ryan, live from Cleveland, Ohio, joining us right now. Are you there, man? Ah, there you go. We can hear you. Like, don't tell me we got a technical issue already to start this thing.
The only technical issue is that I didn't speak, so that's what the issue was. All
right. Coming up next, we got a man who is also a fellow radio friend of mine as well. He is working for DC 101. Give it up for Mr. Mike Jones, everybody. Hello, Mike.
I was just going around. No, it's not. It's working. It's working. How you doing, man?
There we go. Get you some crowd applause there.
Oh,
last, a good friend of mine from the radio business as well, Big Sexy Chris, joining us right now.
Oh, that's a much better introduction than I deserve, but thank you.
So before we begin the great wrestling debate, there's a lot to talk about here in terms of just wrestling as a whole from our fandoms. But before we begin, Chris, I want you, because of yesterday being Hulk Hogan's birthday, tell me your story about Hulk Hogan and the time you met him. I believe it was in an airport, or no, it was backstage.
No, it was 2006, back when Brooke was trying to have a singing career. And Brooke Hogan was booked to play the Top 40 station in Minneapolis Christmas show. And I had an artist who was also going to be on that show. And we're backstage, and the rep for Brooke Hogan came up to me and said, "Hey, can you do me a solid? My daughters love JoJo. Can you get an autograph for him?" I was like, "Yeah, but you got to do me a solid. I got to meet Hulk," because Hulk and Jimmy Hart were basically acting as Brooke's tour managers. So he's like, "Done, no problem." So we get done doing all the artist stuff and all that, and he brings Hulk over, and like I instantly turn into a 6-year-old again, because of course you do when you meet the Hulkster for the first time. And I go, "Mr. Hogan, I just wanted to say thank you for so many years of amazing memories with my dad and I watching you wrestle live at the Chase and all this stuff." And Hogan looks at me like stone-faced for 5 seconds and just goes, "Brother, I don't know where you've been hiding, but if you give me 2 years to train you, I'll make you a monster." And I was like, "Whatever you want, Hulk. I'm in. Whatever you need. I pledge myself to your teachings." Straight up Anakin Skywalker moment, like down on my knee, like, "Whatever you want, Hulkster, I'm in. I'll move to Florida tomorrow."
That's a good story.
Did you get it or anything, or that was the end of the conversation?
You know what's funny is I got Jimmy Hart's information, and somewhere in my mess of an office right now, I have Jimmy Hart's business card, which on the back has his mailing address and his phone number, because in order to get to Hulk, you got to go through Jimmy.
Right.
And so I was cool. Like, I sent them each a box of CDs and things for their time. And I didn't get an autograph from Hulk, but I got a really great picture with him. But yeah, it was a great story. And, dude turned 67 yesterday. And let's be honest, if it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, I doubt the four of us are sitting here right now talking about wrestling right now.
No, not at all.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the biggest names, which we'll get to our Mount Rushmores here coming up in just a bit. But kind of give a little placement for how everyone is in their fandom. Let's go back real quick to the Monday Night Wars. Ryan, we'll start with you. Were you a WWE or WCW guy?
I think you know the answer to this, but I'll say it for everybody else. I was, end of the day, to a fault, a WWE guy. So still on that boat, even though it's taken on a lot of water right now. But, what are you going to do?
That is a good point there.
I'm a Browns fan, so if you think WWE stinking bothers me, it doesn't. I'm used to failure forever.
Mike Jones, you're up.
Always a WWF guy. Followed along WCW, what they were doing, which was funny. My brother was a big WCW guy, so we were a house divided. But always been WWE.
How did you spend Monday nights then?
I would watch Raw live, and then they would do the Nitro replay on TNT. We'd flip right over right afterwards.
Okay. Chris, you're up.
I mean, if we're staying kayfabe, I'm neither one of them. I was a WCW guy for sure. I had gotten out of wrestling for a while, and when I got my freshman year of college was 1996, and I remember I was in the dorms, and this guy down the hall was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go watch wrestling," and I'm like, "But Monday Night Football's on." He's like, "Yeah, dude, but Hulk Hogan's a bad guy, and the Macho," and he like starts all these names from the past. I was like, "Whoa. Hulk Hogan can't be a bad guy." He's like, "Just come watch." And it took one Nitro, and I was like, I'm in. Never missed a live show. I think I can count on one hand because this was before the era of DVRs, the Nitros that I missed. I remember sitting down and watching the first episode of Thunder, which was a colossal disaster because it was like in the middle of a hurricane or some crap. And like the satellite kept cutting out from TNT or TBS. But yeah, decidedly a WCW guy to the point that I'm kind of mad at Vince that he wouldn't give Sting the win at WrestleMania. It's like, dude, you won the war. Like you won. Can you give Sting his win? Like, does Triple H really need to beat Sting? Really?
He needed it because he was supposed to face The Rock next year. Had that have went down, it would have made no sense for Sting to beat Triple H going into a match against The Rock. So you're right because yes, Sting should have won. However, if you look at later in that show, they were setting up next year. So you can't have a 60-year-old man beat Triple H and then you're going to look at The Rock. I mean, like, why would I even watch that? So, Like, you really remember that they should have won or lost. That match was great no matter what.
It was a phenomenal match. It was a really, really great match. I was kind of hoping that at some point X-Pac would do the flip and go, because he came out with DX. I was wanting him to come out with DX and then flip and go back to the NWO.
That would have been cool.
That would have been real good.
See, we could all book this crap.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody from WWE or AEW is watching right now, you have 4 potential great writers right now sitting.
Well, I'll write for AEW because they won't listen to me in WWE.
What are you guys?
Anybody?
What are you guys' thoughts on AEW? Have any of you watched it, spent time with it, enjoy it?
Yeah,
I like it. I think that AEW is what I've always said needed to happen, which was like Ring of Honor. I always thought had talent, but looked like it was produced by a junior high AV club. And I thought that TNA had amazing production, but subpar talent. And I always said, boy, if they could ever find a way to get those two companies in the same building and use the production budget that TNA had and the talent that Ring of Honor had, WWE better look out. And that's AEW. AEW's got the money because Shad Khan's got more money than Oprah and God combined. And they're taking all the guys that Vince either didn't want to or couldn't work with, and they're putting a product out. And it's a good product.
I like the fact that they don't all look like giant monsters. Like they have normal looking dudes on there. It's like, okay, I'm more relating to these guys than Roman Reigns, almost 7 feet tall and looks like Aquaman,
Sure.
AEW is a good thing. It's great for the industry. It gives people another place to work. It lets you see guys you haven't seen in a while, or maybe you felt were being underutilized. And the only thing that's going to push WWE to be better is when they have somebody on their heels. Mm-hmm. And AEW, because they're the new hot product, look, their show isn't perfect. That Dark Order is garbage. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but it's trash. Like, they're not perfect, but they're doing enough and they have enough interest. And the guys they do rely on to carry the show, like Jericho and Moxley and, other guys like that, they do a good job. I watch it every week. I record it with everything. I think, honestly, NXT and AEW are the 2 best wrestling shows on TV right now that we can watch. I don't watch New Japan because I don't know when it's on and I don't know how to, I'm not in Japan. But as far as what you're watching on our mainstream cable, those 2 shows, Wednesday is wrestling night. So I'm really happy AEW's around. You don't have to be a big fan of it. You don't have to say you just have to enjoy wrestling and be happy that now the business is thriving, that you have another company on a major network that you can watch as an alternative. I think it's great.
Yeah, and they definitely have done themselves well in that regard to be able to stand up against WWE. I mean, the show itself, and even here during COVID-19 and the pandemic, I feel like their shows, up until WWE started trying to inject the live crowd, I think they've really done a great job in AEW to give that live feel while there is no live crowd, thanks to having those wrestlers ringside.
I agree.
Well, yeah, it looks nice too. I mean, you have an outdoor facility you can use this attached to the Jacksonville Stadium. So by chance, they can, and they got a few fans in there. Don't kid yourself. They're up in the back and they get tested, but their layout and their product looks like a big deal because poor WWE, they're stuck in a gym basically. Yeah. And you got a company with a nice amphitheater use. So yeah,
They have the interaction with all the wrestlers too, with the people that are in the ring and around it. So
yeah, the plexiglass on WWE hurts them because you have all those NXT, performance guys, and it would be nice to see them be able to interact more like AEWs do.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move into our next topic here, which is current favorite wrestler amongst all the companies that are out there right now. We'll begin with Mike Jones.
I'm going to go for Drew McIntyre. Love the champ right now. I think he's doing great things and really took the ball and he's running with it. And for the ladies, big fan of Nikki Cross right now. I think she's really breaking through and give her a chance. She's going to be a big timer real soon.
Yeah, I agree with that one for Nikki. I think she was just waiting to happen. Chris Frank, you're up.
It goes against everything that I like about wrestling because I like the real side of it. I hate like gimmick or character things, but the Fiend. I'm all in on Bray Wyatt's Fiend character. I think that it's exactly what he needed. I love that the genesis of it and 98% of what he's done with it has been his idea and not someone backstage, although you can kind of see where like they're taking that control away from him. But I think that the Fiend, if they do it right, could be a phenomenal villain for years to come. And on the female side, Alexa Bliss. I've been an Alexa Bliss fan since day one. I love the hot, bitchy females. And she is in my wheelhouse. She is every ex-girlfriend I've ever had.
Ryan.
Real quick, I enjoy the Fiend too, but I'm sorry. That thing they did to him last week where he's standing in the ring with that mask on while Braun Strowman's just the whole Alexa Bliss thing. I hope we're going somewhere because the whole idea is like, I'll use Alexa Bliss to, mess with Braun Strowman. What was his opening line? I don't give an S about Alexa Bliss. And I'm like, well, there goes that. Well, it turns into a guy with a mask on, like staring at the screen, and Braun Strowman's like, I'm going to come kill you. And it's like, well, I actually feel bad for the Fiend if he's supposed to be the heel here.
Right.
This ain't working at all.
My hope is, as much of a dumpster fire as that swamp match was, the fact that they teased that Alexa Bliss could be Sister Abigail, even if that's just the red herring, that's phenomenal.
That'd be great.
Because that's a 2-year callback from the mixed match tags.
So unexpected, too.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice. Yeah. What you could do is take that line about "I don't care about you, Alexa," and she could use that as almost a "How dare you? I'm your," you know what I mean? That was the only hope I had. I had to convince myself that's what they were doing.
I hope so.
Yeah, well,
it's WWE logic goes out the window.
So mine right now, I'm not going to say they're my favorite because I got a couple other ones, but Randy Orton right now needs to be mentioned by everybody because he's taken himself. A Hall of Famer has went to a different level. I'll agree with you about Drew. I'd say for me personally right now, I would say you could throw it up between these three guys, Keith Lee, Kevin Owens, and Sammy Guevara. And then Keith Lee's a star. I mean, you wait.
Up so much.
This guy is going to be – and women, Shayna Baszler. I love you. Whatever your opinion is on the Raw Underground, it doesn't matter. That her showing up in there and just laying waste to people and being that legitimate badass, she's my girl right now.
I think Shayna Baszler has the ability to succeed where Ronda Rousey did not.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. I think she's got way more personality and the ability to connect versus.
She don't have a pre-existing. When you see Ronda Rousey, you already know her. You already know who she is from UFC. You have an idea of her personality. Shayna Baszler is a clean slate. She can come in and just start from scratch.
Yeah.
it's unfortunate they didn't let her keep running after she decimated everyone at Elimination Chamber. They should have kept that going with her. Unfortunately, they cut her off, and it was like, oh, okay, Shayna's done.
I think the pandemic messed that up. I wonder if she was supposed to win at WrestleMania until that all happened.
Yeah, could have been. For me, on the male side, this guy is the epitome of what I love about heels, and that is MJF.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about MJF. That was irresponsible.
You want to talk about just a person who, like, because ever since the NWO, you do a little kickback then, and even DX, heels have always been, since then, like, how can I be the likable heel? Like, the heel that gets cheered, whereas MJF,
the anti-hero.
Hair. You know what I mean? When he comes out, his music hits, my 10-year-old stepson, who's not even paying attention, maybe, will turn up like, oh, this jerk. Like, you're doing something.
He's going really, really. I cannot believe that that's bad. Bad job.
Can I give an honorable mention? Speaking of people who
I gave 10 guys. Go nuts.
Orange Cassidy.
Oh,
he don't do it for me. But
maybe the most entertaining thing on TV, just because it's so stupid. It is so ridiculously dumb that you have to laugh at it.
Yeah, I guess. But anyway, moving on. I'm sorry. If I was Jericho, I would not work with that dude. I'd be like, "There's no way. I'm a top 50 of all time wrestler, and you have me like." And here's the thing. I understand he's trying to help a young guy, and I'm not saying that Orange Cassidy shouldn't be on TV or he shouldn't be in AEW, but to have him going up against Christian, this guy that to me, it's like, dude, if you're gonna do it with like an MJF with what, Cody or Moxley or a Guevara, I don't hate Orange Cassidy. I actually thought the debate was great, when he actually did talk a little bit. So if he could get away, let me correct myself. If he could get away from we get it, you're coming from the indies and you did a whole routine that got you here, dude, it's time to be a star now. So I hope that his promos and stuff he was doing during that debate continue. Let's see some growth, because he could be a star, but right now to me, it doesn't make sense that Jericho's working with this guy. Heel Ryan, baby.
But he's something totally different that we've never seen before in wrestling. And I think that's why he's getting so much attention, and people are like, I like this dude, this slacker that doesn't care about anything, but when it's go time, he can go.
Sure. I'm not saying he shouldn't be there. I'm just saying I need to see some more.
There's obviously a lot of athleticism in that dude. Because to do a lot of the stuff that he does with his hands in his pockets,
great work. Oh, he can do it. Not taking away from that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
I got a chance to see AEW live in Champaign, and he was on the show, and it was a lot of fun to watch him perform. He was still kind of in that mode where he was with the best friends and not wrestling a match when we saw him, but still he got involved and you were able to experience it. So I thoroughly enjoyed him. Let's move on to your Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
Ooh.
We'll go to Chris to start this off. You can do by decade, era, if you will, or you can do all together, one shot, 4 wrestlers that deserve to be up on that mountain.
I'm going to go all together. I'm going to put Hulk Hogan on there, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and then I'm going to put The Rock.
Not Austin. Okay.
Not Austin.
All right. Mike Jones.
I'm going to go
debate
with the Hulkster, with Flair, with Austin. And then that fourth one is always tough. It's like, what about Sting? What about Bret Hart? Maybe The Undertaker. That fourth one is always such a big one. I'd like to say The Rock too. He was only in there a couple years, but still, made such an impact. And what about John Cena? You can make an argument for John Cena as much as everyone doesn't like him, really. He's on your – okay then, Ryan.
All right, Ryan, go.
I got now these are just, in my opinion, not maybe my personal favorites, but guys I feel that actually took the business and went to the next level. The Rock, obviously, he's the biggest star on the planet right now. It's absurd. Austin, obviously, Hulk Hogan, and then I do have John Cena on my list. The reason for not Flair, because I'm sure people are going to ask, is only because I'm talking specifically wrestling when they were performing. Ric Flair was obviously very well known, but I don't think he ever got to where Hogan was, as far as Hogan was a star. You could put Hogan on any commercial, anywhere, anytime, any show, and everybody knows that's Hulk Hogan. I'm not saying Ric Flair couldn't do that, but when you're traveling with the NWA and it was just set up differently.
It was regional.
Ric Flair now is a megastar.
Yeah.
But if we're talking specifically just in their era, I got to go with Cena over Flair.
Okay. I've got Hogan, Flair, Austin, and then I got to throw Cena up there too because he was the biggest, I think, of his era. Now I understand The Rock, like Mike said, he was there for a short time. He's a megastar now, but I think Cena did more for the business internally of the business, and even still past the point of him being at his prime. Those four are my four. Now, Chris, back to you and yours. You were going to say a comment at the end of that.
No, I was just going to say, for me, the reason why I put Dusty up there was because, I think Dusty, for as much as he did in the ring, you can make the argument that he was more influential backstage and after he retired from in-ring stuff than anything else. And I don't think this industry is where it is without Dusty Rhodes going all the way back to the 70s through when he finally left WWE back in the 2000s. I think that, Dusty's fingerprints are all over pro wrestling. And that's why I put him up there.
Did Dusty perfect the promo?
Oh, I think if he didn't perfect it, he put the blueprint in place.
I was going to, because people cut promos before, but once he became the Dream, that captivation.
That's the foundation.
That was a whole different thing when he started doing that.
I think if you look at those Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair rivalry promos from the late 70s, early 80s, I mean, you've got the working man in there and you've got Ric Flair with his styling and everything else. I mean, those are legendary promos that people will still quote to this day. I think 100% that those two guys really, really took the mic side of professional wrestling and started to make it sports entertainment.
And if you look at Dusty too, I mean, how many things did he create? Like you were saying backstage, we wouldn't have War Games if it wasn't for Dusty.
God, I love War Games.
That's cool.
One of my favorite gimmick matches of all time. So we'll take that and lead into it. Oh, Mike, go ahead.
I was going to throw something at you guys when I was thinking about this last night. Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of guys that never held a world title? We could just one or two people. That's a tough one. Yeah, I would put Mr. Perfect and Rowdy Piper on there without question.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
Both of those guys.
Both of those. And maybe Jake the Snake, too. Maybe Jake.
Yeah.
Jake was great for the promo, though. I mean, another great promo guy and he, no matter who he was in the ring with at his prime, made them look great. That guy could tell a story and really put whoever he needed to put over in the ring. Doesn't matter if it was Savage or whoever.
I actually, here's the thing. I mean, you name guys, they never held a world title, but they were guys, their characters were so strong, they didn't really need them.
Mm-hmm.
True.
I mean, Jake's title was the snake. You can only have so many things hanging off you, but man, those are good picks.
Do you say $1 Million Man as well?
Could you technically say he did hold it because when Andre gave him the title, he did wrestle as the champion for like 2
times. Yeah.
Right. So, but I don't think it's like counted on the WWE website. So yeah, whatever. It's wrestling.
Yeah. It was just what I thought of. I thought that was an interesting question to throw at.
We know way too much about this stuff.
Speaking of our Mount Rushmore, and a name that was just brought up that none of us put on Mount Rushmore was Andre the Giant.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's on one of my lists.
Oh, I'm interested in seeing that. So I brought up Dusty Rhodes. We brought up Dusty Rhodes and I brought up the War Games. So let's talk about your favorite gimmick match of all the matches that have ever existed. And we're talking gimmick. Doesn't matter if it's TLC, if it's War Games, something that put a gimmick on the match. What would you say was your favorite gimmick match of all time?
Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
Yeah. Hell in a Cell.
It was really revolutionary, and some of the Hell in a Cell matches are just unbelievable.
Not all of them great. Some of them are good.
No, some of them are down. That Chris, he loves the Fiend. Whatever they did earlier this year, I mean, that was about as bad as it could get for that match. But
mainly because you couldn't see it in the red light.
Yeah,
and the finish was whatever. Terrible. I can't use the words here. So,
My favorite gimmick matches is War Games, but the WCW version with the roof on top, not the new NXT version with no roof.
Yeah, I like the roof version. Though sometimes, depending, like if you're Sid power bombing somebody, it didn't work out too well.
Right.
So depending on how high that roof is, I'll go with the War Games too. I always love that.
I also like that fight pit they just did on NXT recently with Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher. I thought that was a cool concept.
It kind of reminded me of what was it, Ken Shamrock's one that he did at WrestleMania. I think it was against Chris Jericho. I could be wrong here.
I thought it was him and Owen Hart in the Lions Den.
Yeah, the Lions Den. There we go. Thank you. Yep.
In Madison Square Garden in the small theater, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. I just thought it was different. It was like, all right, they're trying something else out on NXT. It's cool to see that.
Yes. Chris, anything else?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it. There's a lot of different gimmicks we could have chose, but I mean, and what's funny is I think that Hell in a Cell and War Games are not too unlike each other. It's basically the same match, just one ring versus two rings.
Well, and you look at Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber is another, little derivative or spinoff of War Games. I mean, in the general premise of the Elimination Chamber itself. So we'll flip the script on that, and let's go to worst gimmick match ever. Because there have been some bad ones that may have been done once, that could have been done multiple times, but worst gimmick match of all time. We'll go to Mike Jones to start this one.
It involves Hell in a Cell, the Kettle from Hell match.
Oh, that was so bad. It was good.
So bad. So bad. Dogs outside the poor
Kissing all over the
big
place.
Boston. So bad. Just wretched.
Chris.
The terrible 3-tiered cage match from WCW that was used to promote the awful Ready to Rumble movie. I think they held that match twice. Both times it sucked, and both times I don't think the announcers truly understood what the rules were, let alone the wrestlers understanding what the rules were. It was awful. Everything about it, total crap.
I think there was an interview with Kevin Nash saying, "Well, I'm in the match. Why do I have to go chase the belt? I'll just wait till the guy brings
wait by the door."
Out. Yeah.
I think he really like, I'll just stand by the door.
All right, Ryan.
I actually was thinking about a couple of those, but I'm just going to use this one, and it's a recent one because I can't believe that somebody came up with the idea. The eye for an eye concept.
Oh, that was awful.
And listen, I understand that it got people looking at it and this and that. It's professional wrestling. Like, to do something like that, I understand there's a pandemic and they're trying to do anything to generate interest. But in a pro wrestling match, say, you got to lose an eyeball. And then that's bad enough. Then to see it, then to see how they do it, and Ray's holding a marble in his hand, and Seth's throwing up pea soup everywhere. And I'm just watching going, God, please don't let anybody find out I watch this.
I can feel your anger right now, Ryan. It's coming through the screen.
It was terrible. Terrible.
Did you ever see the scene in Howard Stern where Pig Vomit comes running in after they do the overnight joke, and he's like, you bleep bleep. If they were like, Ryan, you can go into this writing room and do, like, I would walk in just like Giamatti or Paul Giamatti or whatever his name is in that movie and recite that entire line. Be like,
It was so bad. I mean, AEW did it, and it wasn't great. But then to take it one step further, and like you said, the poor production, and have that marble or ping pong ball or whatever the hell that was.
How about you just pin the guy because it's wrestling? I'm done.
Chris.
It could be worse because I almost went with the Punjabi prison match, which was just a steel cage match wrapped in bamboo.
Which I'm sure felt great.
So much production. So much nothing going on.
They're probably like, well, that was money well spent after that was over.
Someone just went to a Home Depot and bought like all of the bamboo siding they could find and like zip tied it around a cage. There we go, Punjabi prison.
And didn't they build that for Kali, but he never wrestled in one? Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was supposed to wrestle Batista in it.
The first one.
Or the Undertaker, one of the two. No, his liver enzymes or something were out of whack, so they wouldn't let him wrestle.
I remember that. That was bad.
Then they brought it back with Jinder Mahal to face Randy Orton, and then Khali showed up during the match.
Yeah.
Did we just crawl through the cage and get out without opening a door or climbing up and over? I'm trying to remember that.
No, Khali like held Randy Orton by the neck through the cage, and then Jinder escaped and still had the title.
Right.
Let's talk cage matches real quick. Just a side conversation here. So cage matches, how do you prefer it? Over the top rule and out only, or pinfall and exit to pinfall and or exit to win?
Over the top.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Yeah, if they can get out, and that's why the big blue cage was so much fun.
I love the big cage.
Yeah, like it just felt special when they had out the big blue one, especially Hogan and Boss Man on Saturday night's main event. That was awesome.
To me, either way, because I can listen to both arguments. One, you can say, well, the cage is supposed to be so you can't go anywhere. So you could say, well, no, you got to finish it in the ring. The cage is supposed to keep you in. But to escape the cage, that's a whole bunch of different false finishes that you're using when a guy's climbing and you're holding them. And so you're adding to the excitement. So realistically, I'm either one.
Unless, of course, you go to the No Way Out pay-per-view that Ryan and I went to in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I think it was the Big Show versus JBL. Big Show choke slams JBL, puts a hole in the ring. Big Show goes to walk out the cage door, but what do we see? JBL crawling from underneath the ring, so therefore he was out first and wins.
I thought that was a good idea.
The barbed wire cage, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
the barbed wire cage.
Yep, they were bleeding everywhere in about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's do the greatest heel turn of all time for you, because there's been a lot over the course of history. No, not Marty Jannetty murdering a guy back when he was a teenager.
But that's a good heel turn.
Oh boy, I'll say.
We'll go with Ryan to start this one. Greatest heel turn.
There's a couple of them. I will probably have to go with, and it's going to be a name that shows up again, but Andre turning on Hogan was done in such a cool way, because it was such a just like a dramatic, oh my God, he's with Bobby Heenan. And it's not one of those things where you get hit with a chair and you didn't expect it. Or I had an honorable mention. I enjoyed when HBK turned on Hogan because he super kicked him and then he just like stared down at his lifeless body. So that was good. But when Andre the Giant, the 20-year, the most popular, kid-friendly, the first John Cena in a way, of just being the happiest person out there doing honeycomb commercials, and he shows up with Bobby the Brain Heenan and rips the cross off of Hogan. I mean, man, that set up one of the biggest WrestleManias in history.
Good point. Chris?
It's Hogan going bad. I mean, it's,
that's
25 years of saying your prayers, training and eating your vitamins, and every kid in the world, looking at him like he's your hero, and him flushing it and going bad. Like, the only problem I have with it is that Heenan spoiled it.
Yes, thank you. I said that because Heenan made that one comment, and it's like,
whose side is he on?
Yeah.
Hulk's walking down to the ring, and everything is fine until Heenan goes, whose side is he on? And I just went,
yeah, because it was such a heel thing to say, because he's a heel commentator. So if you listen to him in the past, he's always going to try to. But yeah, in that situation, he should have just sold it like Hogan was coming to save WCW.
100%. But still, like, the fact that ring filled up with trash so quick.
Never saw anything like it.
No,
never.
Not unless you're watching something from the 70s.
Yeah. And the reason I gave it to Hogan going to the NWO was it brought back so many people who had left wrestling, because like I was saying at the top of the program, like, I heard a guy in college go, Hulk Hogan's the bad guy. And I went, no, he's not. And it hooked me. And I've been back in ever since.
All right. Mike Jones.
Well, I was going to say Hulk at Bash on the Beach was number one. And I also have a soft spot in my heart for Shawn turning on Marty on the barbershop. That was just...
I knew he was going to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that
line ever.
And you can watch that video a million times in a row. It's still hilarious.
Yes.
And that's what... Bobby was great during that. He tried to escape, that coward. That was great. That was great for Bobby.
And to be fair, since Marty Jannetty's out killing people, he deserved it. So there you go.
I didn't say that. That was Ryan, not me. No.
Allegedly. Whatever.
Well, I have to go with the Hogan going bad, because I remember being a teenager into wrestling. I was watching WCW, but that was like the real change for WCW, not just even in popularity, but just the turn of the mentality and the presentation. And that is what really hooked me into WCW at that time. We talked about greatest and worst gimmick matches. Let's talk about your favorite all-time match.
You're gonna tell us.
Well, I'm giving you a second to think about it. Unless you have it written down, we'll go to Chris to start this one.
Steamboat Savage, WrestleMania 3.
Yeah.
It's hard to steal a show when the main event is Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, but that match might be the most perfect wrestling match I've ever seen to this day.
Told a great story from start to finish, and it just was fantastic all the way through. That was actually my number one on the list. So let's go to Mike Jones.
Bret Hart and Stone Cold at WrestleMania 13. They just, one of the greatest stories that shouldn't have been as great as it was. And again, stole the entire show. It really did. And also honorable mention to Rock and Hogan at 18. I thought,
yes,
just that match was better than it ever should have been with the NWO coming in at that time. Just lights out. That was the main event of that show. Can you what was the actual main event? Was it Triple H Jericho?
Yeah, I think maybe.
Yeah, nobody remembers. It was Hogan and Rock and Hogan
for sure.
Wasn't it Kurt Angle and Lesnar?
And Rock? No,
you're right.
Nobody remembers because it was Hogan and The Rock that stole that show.
And the fact that they read the crowd and they had the freedom to run the match how they saw once they knew how the crowd was reacting to them and be able to change on the fly, because it wasn't booked that way, but they changed it and wrote it perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rock was the good guy. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Ryan.
I'm gonna go with CM Punk and John Cena from Money in the Bank 2011 in Chicago.
So this was the Punk potentially leaving.
This is when his contract was supposedly up. And he was going to leave. If Cena lost, he was fired. And CM Punk, they kayfabed that he didn't sign a new deal. And look at that. I almost got goosebumps thinking about that. When CM Punk came out, there are very few. You can pick a couple Austin reactions, the Mick Foley Rock match where Foley won the title when Austin the Glass hit. And he came, that was absurd. Mm-hmm. But when CM Punk came out in Chicago, it was not only this great reaction, but it was like a real sporting event because he was the hometown guy. And if Cena wins, we riot. And when he got out there and he sat in the middle of the ring, like just cross-legged, just staring at the crowd, and then jumped up and the whole building jumped, Cena came out with a different entrance you've never seen him do. The focused, deadpan, straight ahead John Cena. Didn't look at the camera, didn't do the towel thing because you knew that it was treated like a fight, like a real sporting event. And they had a 30-minute clinic of a match. And then the ending with Vince coming out and CM Punk winning the title. They tried to do the cash-in at the end to keep the title on the show. And it didn't work. And CM Punk jets through the crowd, goes up to the top, holds the title up with that Chicago crowd. Good Lord, from beginning to end, in every match, it's a subjective talk. Every match you guys said I could make the same case for, but man, just something about that match. I can watch that match, that and the Undertaker Triple H Hell in the Cell from WrestleMania.
Yeah.
There you go. What was your guys' opinion at the moment it happened that Undertaker, the streak was broken? Because I had that in my honorable mentions because that was a big shift at the moment because, that set Brock Lesnar up to become a huge beast that we hadn't seen out of him before and threw everybody for a just total spin. Chris, go.
My first thought was that this was the end of The Undertaker because The Undertaker always said he was going to go out with the loss because that's the way you do it. You go out on your back. I didn't think Brock deserved it, to be honest. I think of all the people that worked and jobbed to Taker, I thought someone more deserving and more full-time deserved to take that streak away. But I get why they did it. If you guys haven't seen it, there's a great clip on YouTube of Paul Heyman at some convention.
I've seen it.
And he talks about how do you know that this was what was supposed to happen and that Lesnar just didn't go off script. And it's brilliant the way he positions it because, number one, no one delivers a promo like Paul Heyman. But secondly, it makes you think because if Brock had decided, I'm going to win tonight. Could Undertaker have stopped him? I don't think he could have.
Well, he probably wouldn't have just laid there and let him pin him.
No.
No, I don't think that's true. I think that was planned. Everybody.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, Vince has come out and said it was his decision. Taker. It was clearly. I just think in that moment, I guess realistically, it's both answers are correct because Brock, realistically, if you wanted to be real about it, was the only guy that could do it that made sense.
Right.
But the Undertaker is my favorite wrestler ever.
Yeah.
Remember me talking about the eye for an eye match? Well, that was times 10 after that match. So
I think they should have let him retire with that streak. I really do.
I do. Or if if you were going to give it to a guy, it could have been Roman Reigns. I mean, that would have been way better from him than him losing and then losing again. Like if you were going to use the Undertaker losing to really propel somebody, it could have at least been Roman.
Well, and that's why I said that I didn't think that Lesnar deserved it, because Lesnar's always been 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out.
Well, he don't need it. He's a real life badass dude. He don't need to end that streak to make him bigger than he is.
No.
And it wasn't even a main event spot either.
Right.
That was Daniel Bryan's main event against Randy Batista. So, like you said, Ryan, against Roman Reigns would have made a lot more sense a couple years later in that actual main event last match spot.
There you go. Well, we'll wrap on this. I appreciate all you guys' time.
You don't want to hear my worst gimmick ever?
No. Give me your worst gimmick ever.
Retribution. End it. That's it.
It's like a bad version. What was the biker gang in TNA that Bubba Ray done?
Aces and Eights.
It was good. No, don't do that. Aces and Eights was actually good. That's probably the best thing TNA ever came up with.
Yeah, but it was the NWO.
Well, there you go.
Like the NWO.
Yeah, it got way too big for its
I'll
own.
watch that ripoff compared to the guys that look like they stole 205 Live guys and put it, that's ridiculous.
I was thinking the same thing when I saw them. I'm like, these are all really small guys.
All right, I have one way to save it. You ready? It's Evolve. That's it. Because they bought Evolve and they do have some of those guys. It would be cool. And maybe you could save it from them being cheerleaders in hoods or whatever. And you could say, retribution, because the definition is you're looking to, get revenge for something. You bought our company out, did nothing with us during a pandemic or whatever. So screw you. We're going to ruin your show. That's it. That's the only thing I could think of that would make it even worth what I'm, God forbid, having to watch.
Now I hope it's the Spirit Squad, just so you get mad, Ryan.
I like the Spirit Squad. At least they were somewhat fun.
Were they?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they were fun to watch Triple H and Shawn Michaels beat up all the time. It was great.
I will double down on the Spirit Squad and one up you with the Mean Street Posse.
Oh,
I will take all of those things over Retribution times 100.
Thankfully, though, Dolph Ziggler came out on the other side of that from the Spirit Squad and had a successful career because nobody else in that group did anything and could have survived it. He was the only one that did, and honestly, the only one I think that could have.
Yep.
So
honorable mention to the late '90s, every kind of world order,
World Order, and
BWO, LWO. Whatever else you can think of, WO, it was everywhere.
The red NWO, the white NWO. Wasn't there another NWO color at some point?
Silver.
No,
NWO 2000.
That was like the very.
Who's that? Jarrett and Nash and them.
That was Jarrett and Hart.
So bad. So
Bret
bad.
Hart.
Jarrett and Bret Hart.
Holy Lord, I didn't even know that happened.
No one did.
Good point. You're right.
Brett doesn't even know.
No,
Brett.
He was so concussed at that point, he didn't care.
Yeah, Goldberg kicked his head into the third row. He didn't know what was going on ever again.
Oh, man. All right, so let's do it. Let's go. Greatest manager of all time for you, because there have been so many. I mean, unfortunately, managers today, it's a lost art outside of Paul Heyman. So who would you put as the greatest manager for you all time across the decades and eras? And who wants to go first? Because I see Chris is kind of thinking.
Oh, I've got mine. I got mine the second you asked that question.
All right, Chris, go.
Bobby the Brain Heenan. To me, it's Bobby and everybody else. He not only was a good manager, but maybe one of the most charismatic people in WWE history.
Could you imagine Bobby Heenan, if the poor guy never got throat cancer or anything, if he still had his voice and he could really use his talent in the era of wrestling podcasts and everything? Could you imagine Bobby Heenan doing like a something to wrestle, but it's Bobby Heenan? That poor guy, because of what happened to him health-wise, and he lived really long. It's not like he missed the era. It's just he physically probably couldn't do it. And that's a shame, because could you imagine a Bobby Heenan podcast?
I would. It would be subscribed from day one.
I'd pay whatever you want.
Yeah.
Within reason, not anything. But
yeah. No, and Heenan's on the top of my list because, again, charismatic, the Heenan family, he had such a great stable of people. And even then, past the point when he went into doing commentary, I mean, he was so good at what he did there in commentary. So, Mike Jones, you're up.
Love Bobby. Also a big fan of Jimmy Hart. I always thought Jimmy was so colorful, and everyone he was with. Love that he changed his jackets all the time. Like, he took the gimmick and took it a lot further than he ever should have gone with it. Mouth of the South always was great.
And that guy looks the same. He's like 70,000 years old. He looks exactly the same. Go listen to the Gentrys. They're good. Or whatever.
I met him 2 years ago in Florida, and not changed one bit. I'm like, you look exactly how I remember you from my childhood on TV. Plastic surgery is a wonderful thing. Ryan.
I said Heenan. Yeah, I'm good.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear
Although I will say this, because you mentioned nobody's really doing it now. MVP, man, I enjoy the hell out of the Hurt business. So him leading those guys, because you're right, there isn't other than Heyman and Zelina Vega a little bit. But, man, I think MVP coming back, he's doing better now than he did 10 years ago.
Robert Stone makes me laugh every time.
I like Robert.
Dude's hilarious. He's great. And he's also living the gimmick. I love that.
Yeah.
When you're living the gimmick, that makes the character so much better when you're really into it. I know we talked about Orange Cassidy. Ryan hates Orange, but I mean, you want to talk about a guy living the character. There's another one.
Yeah, it's great unless you're Enzo Amore, and then he gets you fired.
And that sucks too. I mean, aside from what had happened or whatever all that was, I used to be such a big fan of that group between Enzo.
How could you not?
Enzo will be back. I think he'll be back.
In WWE, or do you think AEW picks him up?
I think WWE will end up bringing him back at some point.
Interesting.
I also think Rusev will be back in WWE at some point.
Yeah. I think once this pandemic lifts and WWE can start touring and making money again, I think a lot of those guys who got cut on that brutal day will find their way back in some way.
Sure, yeah.
Well, of the pandemic, we're going to take SummerSlam reportedly as of today to a new location. No fans, but in a different city, somewhere in Florida is what I was reading.
I thought they were going to Atlantic City.
No, the report I read said no, they're going to stay in Florida for it. But what does the Royal Rumble look like then with the pandemic? I mean, it doesn't look like we're going to be out of this by January. So what does that look like then? I mean, do they host it? Do they have it? What does that look like in the Performance Center?
I think it'll depend
just like
on
WrestleMania.
No, but I think by then, there's two answers to this.
Okay.
If a vaccine comes out before the end of the year, there will be some fans, and you can do something. If not, it's going to be tough. So here's the thing: it's tough to predict what things are going to look like because every month something changes. So honestly, I don't know what the Rumble would look like because I would have to see where we're at science-wise first. But boy, a Rumble surprise with no crowd would really stink.
I think that's the one event that needs the fans the most, and that's really lack without fans there. You can skip over Hell in a Cell for 1 year. That's fine. Royal Rumble, it's one of the big ones. You can't miss that.
No, it sets everything up, and that when that buzzer goes off, like you were saying, and the crowd goes nuts and reacts to whoever it is, surprise or whatever have you. I mean, that's the Rumble. That is what made the Rumble. I disagree with the fact of like when they got up to like 40 people in there, but it's like, so yeah, I don't know how it's going to look, but that is one thing I'm wondering how that's going to end up being. Because I mean, you think about AEW canceled Blood and Guts, which was their big version of War Games. They did not do it. So can WWE pull off the Rumble then? We'll just
have to see where everything's at, honestly.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, I thank you all for the time. Chris, go ahead.
I have one last question or topic I'd like to throw out before we call it a night.
I'll sit here till 10 p.m. I don't care. Go nuts.
The most shocking or coolest moment you got to see in person?
Oh, wow.
I was at Hell in the Cell when Mick Foley got thrown off.
That's big. That's
damn.
Big.
I was in Pittsburgh. I was in Section C. I'll tell you right now. We were watching him go up there, and everybody was standing up. And I think I was 16, or I was just turned 16, I think, that year. And we're all standing up, and my dad took like me and 4 of my friends, and the Undertaker bleep canned him off the top, and it looked like I'll steal a line from a great TV show. It looked like a sack of wet cement, just. And I remember everybody just like fell back in their chair like he's dead. I mean, it was, and then he went through. So yeah, I'll say that I saw that live, and I'll never forget that.
Wow.
I get to see Sheamus cash in Money in the Bank. I never saw Money in the Bank cash in, and that was cool to be there in Survivor Series that one year when he did it in Atlanta. And I saw the first Elimination Chamber in New York City. So that was
cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So some good memories there. Got to do some fun things.
Chris?
I have an infamous one that I had a ticket to but didn't go to, and that was Over the Edge in Kansas City.
Oh.
I had a ticket to it, didn't go.
Good. Good thing.
Best thing I ever saw in person was I was at Sting's debut in the WWE Survivor Series in St. Louis.
How was that? Did people? Because I think his music was a little different. Did people know what
it was
happening?
It was rumored. Like we had an idea that it was coming, and I think it was because they had teased that he was going to be in the video game.
Yeah.
So we were like, if he's going to be in the game at some point, he's going to show up.
When his music hit, did you know who it was, or were you still?
I knew who it was as soon as the lights went out, because before the music hit, you saw, well, it wasn't synced up properly. A crow popped up on the jumbotron, and I was like, Sting. So also in St. Louis, I saw The Rock win his first world title, Survivor Series, when he did the tournament and won the big old
98
giant belt. Yep, 98.
Oh, wow. I don't think I have any of the big ones that come to mind, honestly.
What are you talking about? We saw The Undertaker and what's his name for wrestle?
Well, I will say seeing The Undertaker live and getting to see
cool.
the entrance is absolutely amazing. It's
you didn't like The Undertaker Heidenreich wasn't doing for you, or whatever it was?
Oh, God, Heidenreich.
Oh, poor
I think it was actually Luther Reigns or whatever his name was. Wasn't that who he fought at that pay-per-view we went to?
Hell if I know. It was some guy in black trunks that Vince went over. It didn't happen.
I was mad the whole match because The Undertaker sold for him too much.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Anybody else have any other topics you guys want to throw in? I mean, we got the time if you want to.
Oh, boy. All right, I'll give you one.
All right.
I want to just know everybody's opinion on Raw Underground because I got my own. I'll wait to hear everybody else's, but I'm just curious.
I don't like the ring poles in the corners. It kind of takes away from it. I do like the mat and just guys jumping in out of nowhere. That's cool. It's a fun concept, and it could be good. We'll see.
I 100% agree with you. I think that there's something that can be done with it. I think it's very rough right now. I think that if they continue to tinker with it, there's the ability to have something very fresh and new, which Lord knows WWE and wrestling in general needs. But I reserve judgment on if I like it or not just yet.
Yeah, I'm still questioning it myself as a whole. The idea, I like it. Again, like Chris is saying, though, if they tinker with it enough and make it something worthwhile, cool. But back in my mind, I'm thinking WWE and know how they can be sometimes. I'm like, yeah, this might just go flop in about a month, and then we'll never exist it, and we won't know what happened because maybe Retribution destroys it at that point. They use Retribution as a way to
Well, they better not go in there because they'll get their asses kicked. Bobby Lashley will be throwing people. I agree with everything you said. I think they're on to something if they do it right. It's definitely a nice platform to see some of these other guys and make them like you could build a guy, these underground fighters, and then they come up and show up, at Raw or SmackDown and raise hell, which would be what you would do if you actually knew what Retribution. But I mean, I I think it's definitely something they can work with. The only thing I got mad at is I like Brian Alvarez sometimes, and he's complaining like, well, what are we supposed to believe? This is a legitimate fight, and then in the ring is fake. It's like, no, you putz. They never once said it was real. The idea of watching a wrestling match is to pretend that it's real. You're not supposed to watch it and go, wow, these guys are really working together so great. You know, the idea is to take yourself out of the moment. We know what it is. And if you're going to sit there and look at it and say, well, these are like supposed to be shoot fights, and then what they're doing in the ring is fake. And now it's like, no, they're both performances. But the Raw Underground to me is supposed to be, hey, look what I can do when there's not. Now we all know WWE's rules are what they are. But look at me in a different environment when I like having Dolph Ziggler and stuff show up there and use his amateur background. So if they do it the right way, we might have something. But my faith level is so low.
That's exactly where I'm at.
And I'm going to feel bad because they're going to screw up some guys that look pretty promising if they mess this up.
But if it goes the distance, do they create a Raw Underground title and we have yet another title in WWE?
Oh.
God, I hope not. That's my biggest complaint right now with WWE is I feel like everybody's got a title.
Yeah.
I got one. It's in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I got one sitting right over here.
Yeah, Wes has got one.
The 24/7 title needs to go away. Like that thing is just
a horrible idea.
I feel bad though. That's like R-Truth's whole gimmick. Like,
it's what's keeping him employed. That's for damn.
It's funny when he pins Jinder Mahal on an airplane to Saudi Arabia. That's hilarious. But
I only give him credit
in the
for keeping
performance
it
center.
for a year.
Yeah, in the Performance Center, it doesn't really work that well.
No, back when you were in the arenas, it was a perfect title for that situation. And I still feel bad for Mick Foley when he debuted it because that crowd went so flat on him.
Just because the belt looks like the logo for a diner.
It's a poor man's boxing belt. I mean, it really is green with the big gold center plate. Ugh.
That's the other thing. Why does every belt have to be a different color? Why are we treating title belts like Starburst? Can't they all just be what they're supposed to be? Black belts with some gold?
I could agree with that. I mean, they did transition off the white Intercontinental title, went back to a black strap with the new design.
Yeah, but you know what? They should have never changed the design of that belt. That was that belt, I think, is to WWE what the big gold belt was to NWA/WCW.
It should
that
be
Intercontinental title. Yeah, that Intercontinental title is so well known.
It was really the only thing they had to link the past.
Yeah, like from like the Macho Man, Honky Tonk, Warrior days till now, like that's the one belt that never changed.
Well, no, yeah, it did though, because I mean, during the Attitude Era, it was a different design.
Yeah, it was like this oval thing that Jericho had.
Yeah,
and Cody brought it back to the design of the old until now. Recently changed it.
Which I don't even like. The new design is fine, but not for that title.
I agree.
That could have been a tag title design on that.
Yeah,
belt.
why don't you get rid of those god-awful tag belts and use that design for
That aren't even gold, they're copper.
Yeah.
Oh, the SmackDown, like the Raw ones are bad enough. You look at those blue and silver things, and it's like, what? I'd be embarrassed. I'd be like, I got to take this in the airport.
Yeah.
I saw the one time I was flying back from LA the one time, and getting off the plane I was getting on was Dolph Ziggler, and he was the Money in the Bank winner at the time. And sure enough, there's that beat up briefcase coming off the plane with the carry-on. Speaking of having your carry-ons, no matter what the belt is or whatever have you, I mean, you got to take that Money in the Bank if it's a beat up prop at that point because you've used it so many times. There he is walking off the plane with head smashes in there from whenever he used it a couple times.
Well, at least you can carry things in that.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. At least that you get to carry instead of burying your belt in your carry-on luggage and hope to God you don't get stopped at the TSA. I was reading somewhere somebody had a title belt and they got stopped at the TSA, and the guy purposely, he had seen the belt. He said the agent saw the belt and was digging through and then asked him to take the belt out. And he's like, dude, you just wasted 15 minutes of my time because you saw it and you want to hold it. No, put everything back and let me go.
Yeah.
All right, if you could push one guy to the moon right now, who is it? That rocket strap baby.
I'm going to go back to MJF right now for me. I think he can carry AEW as a great heel. You just have to have a great face to finally put over once they establish somebody to challenge him. But I think he could have a nice long run as a heel champion. He's got everything going for him right now with the personality.
Keith Lee.
He's getting
I
it
think-
at least.
Yeah, I think what Kevin Owens did as far as breaking the mold of your typical big guy wrestler and showing that the big guys can be athletic, Keith Lee was like, hold my Big Mac, watch this. And like the things that Keith Lee does, remarkable. Give me hope as a fat, out of shape 43-year-old that maybe someday I can do a cartwheel.
Oh, he's the one who basically launch pad Adam Cole over the
coolest thing ever.
crowd.
Yes. Boom. I wouldn't mind seeing them finally pull the trigger on Johnny Gargano, but I feel like he's gonna have that same cloud like Dolph Ziggler has over him. He's never gonna get to that next level, even though he certainly could. He's got every ability in the world. It's funny, a Cleveland guy too, like Dolph. But it's just never going to happen for him. And I hate that because he has so much potential.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would like to see them eventually do something with Adam Cole. I think they will. I think this Pat McAfee thing, whether you like it or not, it's definitely to get his name in a public view. So that's what it's for. But the guy isn't with the company right now. And I mentioned him earlier, and I think he would come back. I think Rusev might be one of the most talented, fun people that they just, because Vince thinks it's 1985. Oh, you're from a different country, so clearly we're going to put a flag on you that from Bulgaria and Russia and turn you into this. Like if you watch his Twitch stuff and listen to him, that dude has charisma. He's hysterical. He looks like I don't understand. The Rusev Day thing was getting over. I have no idea.
So huge.
How they could screw up that guy
because it's Vince.
Because you're right. I do know how. That was.
Do you think he may have looked at him like Nikolai Volkov and just
100%
never gave him anything more than that? Like Vince only had 80s, early 90s flashbacks of Nikolai.
Yeah, but
the Iron Sheik.
Yeah, but Miro can talk. Like these guys, they couldn't even really, they obviously English was their second language and maybe his too, but his personality cuts through. I think that and Shinsuke Nakamura too. Good Lord.
Oh, if I was Shinsuke, I'd just say, just let me go back to Japan.
He's actually happy. That's what I can't even get mad at him. He loves living in California and he's fine. He's like, whatever, I'll make my money and surf.
Making a boatload of money and getting
God bless him.
I mean,
that's why I don't get mad because he's fine. Like if
there's something to be said for that. As long as the check's clear, I'm cool. Like that's a great attitude to have.
He's an older guy too. I don't think he probably wants to keep getting, that. I think he likes being in a tag team and just kind of because he's older. I think people don't realize. I think he's a little older.
He's almost 40 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's probably content. But yeah, Rusev, I just to this day don't understand how the hell they screwed that up. But you're right. I do know how.
But hey, at least, with the New Day, they've kept that team going and together for how many years at this point. And when it started off a little rough, I mean, it did.
Yeah, it started off a lot rough.
Yeah. And then it became something, though. I mean, look at it. I mean,
I got him. I got those. I got a unicorn horn. I got Funko Pops. I got all of it.
I like too how Big E's doing his own thing, but they didn't do the typical like nobody wants to see Big E beat up the New Day. Like I don't want to see that. Like I'm happy they're kind of keeping them. Hey, I'm just gonna go do my own thing, and we're still a group. And I think that's so.
They just keep talking about him on TV, and they never do that with anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like they still exist.
Yeah, whereas any other team or faction, we're going to have one person turn on them, and then that breaks everything up so we can jettison this person up and make them run. Because we've been doing that since the 70s, and it worked every time, supposedly.
So, speaking of Vince taking things that are gold in his hand and turning them into poo in his hand, why did Balor Club never happen? I mean,
he fired everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, he had all the pieces in place. He brought in AJ Styles. He brought in Gallows and Anderson. He brought in all of the Bullet Club from Japan.
They teased it. They messed that up bad. They
have the shirts printed.
They had
and then they tried to redo it as the OC.
Oh, I didn't even mind that. Like the OC was fine. It's just when you had that cool moment, I think it was during an NXT show when they were getting ready for Survivor Series where like you had the club there, AJ, Gallows, Anderson, and Finn Balor like pseudo helped them and they kind of like had that like that moment where they were all there and you're like, please.
There was like, that. And then there was also the Raw 25th anniversary where they had all those dudes in the ring with the NWO and DX.
Doing this.
And they all gave it together. And I was like, that's it. They're finally going to push them together. And they didn't do it.
Oh, where's that ball at? Oh,
Yeah.
That's Vince not wanting to take something from outside because it's not
he
his.
didn't make it. Yes,
Right.
which is
So what? It was cool.
Yeah.
It didn't stop him from trying to do the NWO and it failing horribly.
that's because he bought them. They're
True.
his now. You know.
They were his guys before, and he thought, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the original premise of the NWO was that they were the WWF invading.
Yeah. Well, and you looked at the failed WCW invasion because they had no stars for the WCW invasion that were the WCW.
Booker T.
before.
That was it. And then they put Booker T in the NWO.
I think DDP was there from like in the beginning, wasn't he? A little bit.
Yeah, a
Wasn't
little
he the
bit.
stalker? I don't know.
He did that
horrible.
stuff. I think it was weird.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
horrible storyline with Taker. Ugh. So
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna take everything that's good about DDP and be like, you can't use any of it. It's like, oh,
None of it. Not a damn part of it.
nope. So bad. Oh man. Oh, so do you guys have anything else you want to hit? I mean, I'm leaving the floor open. So
I'm good. I think I exhausted all my stuff.
neighbors are tired of hearing him yell right now at this point.
I got nothing until Lucha Underground gets resurrected somehow.
It might.
I love Lucha Underground.
I
That
think
was
Ring
just
of
fun.
Honor's taping again. I saw.
Are they?
Yeah.
Have you guys spent any time with the new NWA Power?
It's not bad.
Billy Corgan's thing?
Yeah. Is
It's
YouTube
a little
not
bit.
bad.
It's fun, and it's a throwback to when we were kids. So that was cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I actually watched. Wes, you're gonna think that this is impressive. I actually watched Impact a couple weeks ago when I knew everybody was going to be on it because I watched Slammiversary. That might be the most Impact / TNA I've watched in my life ever.
Is Eli Drake still in NWA? That's a dude that I'm surprised hasn't made his way to at least AEW.
Well, I thought he had like such a bad rep behind the scenes, though. At least when I read on the
Oh, is he
dirt.
the yeah guy? The guy that was like, yeah, like he had the button.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that that's him in real life, and he's really that big of an a-hole.
I never read anything positive about his personality.
Yeah, I'm sure that he's in real life, as we said earlier, living the character. But the character is a heel is a great character.
I will agree with that. I'm trying to think. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I think we're all good then, guys. Guys, I seriously appreciate all the time we've spent here, over an hour on this. And well, anytime you get wrestling fans together, it could easily turn into this, if not longer.
We should do some watch-alongs like this for pay-per-views.
Oh, that would be
This
fun.
was fun. This was totally fun.
Yeah.
I will let you in on something that my friends and I have done for years, and if we get enough people to do it, we should do it.
All right.
Every year for the Royal Rumble, we put numbers 1 through 30 in a hat, and it's $1 a number.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, okay.
Blind draw. All you know is your number. You have no idea.
And
who
then
it
if that number wins the Rumble,
that
you
number
win the
wins
pot.
it, you win the pot. So you're out $1, you could win $30. You know,
I
you ain't
like
gonna
it.
get rich, but you ain't
I'm
gonna
in.
go broke.
That's
Pay for
cool.
my gas and beer.
Yeah.
All right. I'm in for that. We'll have to do that. We'll have to do a special as we get closer to the Rumble of all of us together and then discussing that and making our plays for it.
I like that.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, it's fun. If any of you guys ever have parties, we started it maybe a handful of years ago, and we have friends who like don't even really follow wrestling, but they come to the Royal Rumble party every year just because it's a
Got
chance
some
to eat
gambling
crappy.
buddies. I like it.
Yeah, just some crappy food, cheap beer. And,
It's the best event of the year.
Yeah, and you're spending $1 and a chance to win $30.
Now, here's the question. Are you doing the men and
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah,
Okay.
so $2 you could win 60.
Not bad, though. I know my luck would be I'd pull number one.
Depends who
Which
number one is.
isn't the
though.
worst number to get.
No?
No, but it would probably be the year that number one is like Gilbert making a surprise return.
I've won once, and I think I won with Roman Reigns, but usually I end up with like
Kurt
I think
Hawkins.
I dude, one year I had Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I was like, just take my dollar.
Take my dollar.
Is there refunds involved? Because I need that now. Thank you.
Yeah, but it's fun.
All right, we'll definitely do it. Again, thank you guys for coming
That's
on
really
and
cool.
talk. And let's do it again sometime. If you guys want to go ahead and think of some other topics we can hit on for next time, let's do a pot together.
Do a SummerSlam.
All right.
Something.
All right. When SummerSlam?
That'd be a lot of fun.
2 weeks.
2
A
weeks?
week from Sunday.
Okay. I'll get all the invites together and we'll do it. All right, guys?
Nice.
All right, cool.
All right, stay on the horn real quick. I'm going to end the broadcast, and I'll be right with you in a second. Thank you all for checking it out.